we have seen the balancing of 4-cylinder engine and a 6-cylinder engine. So 4-cylinder, in a 4-cylinder engine, the final outcome of the discussion is that the secondary forces are not balanced. Secondary forces are not balanced. Then we discussed about the balancing of 6-cylinder engine. Of course, what I refer as a 4-cylinder engine should have that particular crank configuration. 6-cylinder engine with 120-degree crank angle configuration, we found that all the primary forces, secondary forces, primary couple and secondary couple all are balanced. So all forces and couple are balanced. So that's why 6-cylinder engine is a popular configuration. Wherever possible, your truck engines, your bus, all engines you will find are the 6-cylinder engines, because balancing wise this is a very preferred configuration. But we also should discuss about other configuration before leaving the multi-cylinder engine. That is 3-cylinder engine. Why 3-cylinder? If we ignore 3-cylinder, we are doing injustice, because the way we Indians traveled or changed by a car, Maruti 800. Because earlier there were only 2 versions. One is made by Premier Automobiles, so that is Fiat or Contasab. Whereas the other group is by Hindustan Motors, by Ambassador. These were the 2 companies were making cars. So cars used to be expensive. But later, in 1980s, Maruti introduced a version called Maruti 800. It is a compact car costing about 50,000 rupees. Many people could afford to buy a car. But Maruti 800 is having only 3 cylinders. But many cars of today, you find only 3 cylinders are there, not 6 cylinders. So in a 3-cylinder configuration, what are the issues? Whether a 3-cylinder is also balanced of the primary and secondary forces and couples. So that is what we have to briefly discuss. So you look at the 6-cylinder configuration, the primary force polygon of a 6-cylinder engine, if you recall, the primary force polygon is used to be like this. This is for the first cylinder, this is for the second cylinder, this is the third cylinder, then you have the fourth cylinder, then we have the fifth cylinder and the sixth cylinder. This is the primary force polygon of a 6-cylinder engine, you can recall. The secondary force polygon of the 6-cylinder engine again is first cylinder like this, but this will be of 1/4 of the magnitude approximately of that one. The first cylinder, this will be the second cylinder, this is the third one, then you have the fourth, fifth and the sixth. So if you look at this, what we can say is if you take the 3 cylinders alone, that is the first, second and third cylinders, you will see that particular part of the polygon is closed as per the primary forces are concerned. Whereas the secondary forces are concerned, you can see the first 3 itself is closed. So if you don't have to elaborate, but you look at the 6-cylinder engine analysis, the primary forces and secondary forces are balanced in separately. So if I have a 3-cylinder engine like this with 1, 2 and 3, the primary force and secondary force will be balanced. But whether the couples will be balanced is the question, because for a multi-cylinder engine, not only the forces but the couple also should be balanced. Okay, so for 3-cylinder engine, which is the most popular in cars today, the one of the car to use to start with in India is Maruti 800. Today many cars, if you see, they are only having 3-cylinder configuration. The 3-cylinder configuration, primary forces and the couples are balanced, but primary force and secondary forces are balanced, but what about the couple? So if you take let me draw the configuration. If I take, this is the first cylinder, then you see this is first one, second, this is third. So if I project this will be my second one, this is my third. So this is the first cylinder config crank, this is the second cylinder crank, this is the third cylinder crank. So that will be there. This is the side view of this. So if I take the center of gravity plane of this 3-cylinder block, the center of gravity will be approximately passing through the second cylinder, because you have 3 cylinders, means the middle cylinder will be the center, so the CG plane will be like this. So if you think of the moments created by the cylinder number 2 will be 0, because it is the plane which contains the CG. But whereas if you take the primary moment created by 1 and 3, it cannot be balanced because they are not at the same angle. So they will not be producing same magnitude of, they are at the same distance. They are at the same distance, doesn't matter. But since the crank angles are different, they may not produce the same force at every instant. So this particular configuration, the primary couple and the secondary couple will not be balanced. So in a 3-cylinder engine, you will find that the couples are not balanced. But I don't know that in Maruti I could not find any balancing arrangement. We opened the thing, we could not find. But you have to see the new version, new generation of engine. I didn't find any information, but new generation of engine has only 3 cylinders, whether they have a balancer for a couple. So that we have to find out. Then only this will be complete. So I will discuss now about how the 4-cylinder engine, the secondary forces are balanced and how couples can be balanced. Okay, so that is our discussion. You have any doubts? Projected is a 4-cylinder engine. It is a crankshaft with a Lanchester balancer shaft for a A-class petrol engine. So it is a 4-cylinder engine. Obviously we have discussed that a 4-cylinder engine don't have the automatic balancing of the secondary forces. Therefore, how to tackle the secondary forces? We have to use a Lanchester balancer. So that is what you can see here. So where is the Lanchester balancer? This is the balancer located exactly at the middle plane, so that the net, you have to understand that all the forces are acting in a plane. So as per the reciprocating unbalance is concerned, they are acting in a plane. So you have to think of always 4 parallel forces. So the parallel forces are concerned, it will act in the middle plane. So the balancing is done in the middle of the plane. So the Lanchester balancer is provided there. So what is the configuration of it? As we have seen in the Lanchester balancer, there will be 2 rotating wheels. So we will see the basics. So this is about used in a Mercedes-Benz engine. This is how the Lanchester balancer is used. We have discussed about how the Lanchester balancer produces a force of varying magnitude, sinusoidally varying magnitude. So what we need is 2 rotating unbalances. They have to rotate in the opposite direction. So these unbalances will produce inertial force. Now as per the 4-cylinder is concerned, we have to tackle the secondary force that should be rotating at twice the speed of the crankshaft, so that this will be taking 2 theta. So the net force will be acting, which will be devised so that it is equal to 1 by q times cos 2 theta m r omega square. So that is how it is devised. It is driven by a gear which is connected to the crankshaft, so that it is positively the angle relationships are maintained. I cannot use a belt drive, means it will be a small angular difference that cannot be accepted. So it has to be a positive drive. The positive drive is like you have a drive is taken by gears. So you have a crossed helical gear. You can recall a cross helical gear. You can have a shaft with right angles. So cross helical gears are used here, and these are 2 gears in engagement. So this exactly you see is placed at the center of the plane. This is what the arrangement is as per the Lanchester balancer is concerned, which cancels the secondary forces, because in a 4-cylinder configuration secondary forces are there which could not be cancelled. So Lanchester balancers helps you to cancel this. So that is about 4-cylinder. 4-cylinder I can have with the help of a Lanchester balancer a perfectly balanced engine. That's what a refined engine like the Mercedes-Benz engine does. Now, when it comes to the three-cylinder engine, When it comes to a 3-cylinder engine, you found that the couples are not balanced. But is there any way to balance a couple? We have said the Lanchester balancer is a device that is used to create a force of varying magnitude acting in a single line. Whereas any device is there which can produce a couple of varying magnitude. So that can be used for balancing a multi-cylinder engine which produces a couple and balances. So here is a device like this. You can see the device uses, like a Lanchester balancer, an unbalance. So when they rotate, they will produce a force, but it is designed such that these two forces are exactly opposite in direction, parallel in action, therefore it produces a couple. So it looks similar to a Lanchester balancer, but the function is different. This produces a couple. In Lanchester balancer, you can see that these two masses will be at the same angle from the vertical or horizontal, wherever reference, but this angle are in the opposite direction. They are 180 degree opposite in angle, so that they produce the forces in the opposite direction. Another variation that you can find with the Lanchester balancer is, in Lanchester balancer, these two wheels are directly engaged so that they rotate in the opposite direction. But here, these two rotate in the same direction. If two gears needs to rotate in same direction, you have to use an idler. So here you are using an idler here, which produces the force. Now it produces the couple. So if you see that when this is in the orientation like this, the vertical direction, the force from here will be like this, the force from here will be in the opposite direction. What will be the coupled magnitude? It will be this force into the distance, that is B here. Okay, so that is how it produces a couple. What happens is, both of them are going to turn in the same direction. Say perhaps this turns by clockwise by theta, this curves also turns by angle theta. So still they are parallel and opposite, they produce a couple. But what about their magnitude? So that you can quickly work out the magnitude of that, the distance between the two forces would decrease, and that will become zero. The distance will become zero when these two rotate and come here like this. When they occupy this orientation, this is in this direction, this is opposite, but the distance is zero. So this produces a kind of a sinusoidally varying magnitude couple. So that particular sinusoidally varying magnitude couple can be placed anywhere on the engine that will balance the couples produced. If this rotates at the same speed of the crankshaft, this will produce this will cancel out the primary moment. If it rotates twice and you select the magnitude such that it balances the secondary, it can balance the secondary. So this is a device that is used intelligently to cancel out the couples. It produces a couple. So I will quickly work out, what is the, how it works, how the angle is as a component of this, how the couple magnitude is a component of cos theta. Okay, so that I can quickly draw a diagram and I will show you. Do you have any doubts? Okay, we'll pause and then we'll go back to the board. configuration of a couple balancer. Of course, there is an idler wheel here. So both of them will rotate in the same direction. Let us take that it rotates in the clockwise direction. Now when the masses are in the vertical direction, the forces produced by them will be equal, that is mr omega square. So one will be in the downward direction, other in the upward direction. This is the two parallel forces with an offset distance b. The couple produced this configuration at this moment is F. The couple M is equal to mr omega square times b. There is no issue. Now when this turns, then occupies this position later, that angle if you take, that is theta, this also will turn by the same angle because they are rotating at the same velocities. So if I draw this line, that is the direction in which my force will act now. This is the direction at which force will act. This is the direction at which the force will act now. So the distance between the two is decided by the shortest distance. So I draw a perpendicular to this. Then, so if you take this distance, that is your center distance between the two wheels, that is B. And of course this is theta. And if you take this angle also will be theta. This will be 90 minus theta. So this angle should be theta. So what will be my this value? Suppose I take this distance as x right now. So I have to replace this b with x. So that is equal to mr omega square. So that is b cos theta. Okay. So you have b cos theta. So when this two wheels rotate in the same direction, the masses occupy this. So the moment, magnitude of the moment changes as a cosine function. So that is what we are looking at as per the reciprocating masses are also concerned, because mr omega square cos theta will be what is the force produced, and the distance of the particular cylinder away from the reference plane, the center plane, will be b, so it will be cancelling out. So this is how this particular thing works. Do you have any doubt? So 3-cylinder engine without this kind of a balancer will be producing a couple unbalance. If it is negligible, you can live with it for point of view of a cost benefit. Otherwise, if you want to have a refined one, then you must use such a balancing devices to balance it. Okay. Now coming back, with this I think I finished this balancing of reciprocating masses as well. Now the next one, as I told you, balancing of complex motion devices, the devices which are moving in a complex way. So you see that when you think of a crank, this is rotating. The piston which is reciprocating. Of course, a crank will have an unbalance. Obviously, this will be having a configuration. This will be unbalanced here. So this need be balanced. So the principles that are used for balancing a rotating thing can be applied here. So I can provide something here the opposite direction, because the balancing mass, the unbalance of this can be, our rotating mass is like this. So this is the mass I have added to overcome the rotating mass unbalances. Then about the reciprocating masses are concerned, I can balance it at least partially. I add little more to this additional mass that are required to balance the reciprocating. So I can say this is rho, this is reci. But this is how I partially at least I balance it. But what about the connecting rod? The connecting rod will also be having a mass, will also be having a moment of inertia. So how to balance the forces acting on it, because it is going to have an inertial force, it will be producing some inertial force. We have seen in the inertial force analysis that is to be balanced. So how to balance it? So the way to balance, we know how to balance the rotating unbalance and the masses, we know how to balance the reciprocating masses, but we do not know how to balance the complexly moving masses. So how to do that is to go back to the idea of dynamically equivalent system. You know the dynamically equivalent system, we can model any mass like this, two concentrated masses. The conditions we know that the Cg of this should be same. So you can recall that. So that idea you bring it here for finding out the dynamically equivalent of your connecting rod. Connecting rod, you will have some configuration like this. This end is called big end. This end is called small end. So this is connected to the crank and this is connected to your piston, that is the gudgeon pin. So this will have some configuration like this. And of course, for assembling the connecting rod of a multi-cylinder engine, this will be split here because you put it and then attach. So those details you can see. Now this center of gravity will be approximately here, that you can find. This will be your Cg. So you try to model this as a two mass system so that the Cg is still same. So you can find out the two mass system. So I can have one mass here at a distance here, say L1. I can find out what is L2 here. So this is my mass M1, this is mass M2. This will be my so-called dynamically equivalent system of a connecting rod. So you remember there are three conditions for dynamically equivalent system. The mass should be same, then their center of gravity should be same, their moment radius of gyration about Cg should be same. So three equations, but four unknowns are there. So you have to start with assuming something. So let me assume that it has to be placed in the center of this big end. So that my location I am fixing. With the three equations I can find out what is M1, L2 and M2. Three equations are there, I can solve and get it. But you will find that this mass is not located at the other end, that is small end bearing. Center of the small end bearing. When you calculate the dynamically equivalent system of a connecting rod, you choose to place one of the masses here at the center, then you will find that the L2 is such that, how do you find out? L1 is fixed. K square is equal to L1 into L2. So L2 is automatically fixed. So that will be here somewhere, which is invariably short of this big, the small end connecting rod. I cannot have it anyway. This will be slightly inside. So that will be a perfect dynamically equivalent system. So now if I take this one and try to put it here, one of this can be in the big end, whereas the other part will be somewhere here, which is not located at the reciprocating piston. So what to do? I said that if you find a dynamically equivalent system with the two masses, I can place one mass on a rotating crank, other mass is the reciprocating thing, but when I work out and find, I find that this will not be exactly at the, if I choose one of the masses to be at the center of the big end, the other mass location is not fixed, it will not be here, it will be somewhere short of it. So what to do is, what we do is forcibly, what we do is we shift this mass here. We shift the mass here. So when we shift the mass, we are violating this. That is the first two equations, that is center of gravity is preserved. M1 plus M2 is equal to M mass of the connecting rod. First two equation I can comply with, but the third equation, the radius of gyration, this I cannot comply if I forcibly shift this to here. What will happen is, I am making not a perfect dynamic model, but it is an imperfect model. Imperfect model means it will not be exactly equal to the dynamic the features of it, characteristics of it, but that will be with an error. But what to do is, you have to live with that error. You put this here so that this can be shifted and added to this reciprocating mass. Consciously, with the compromise, knowing that it is not going to be a perfect model, so that means what will happen is, the inertial torque will not be, suppose this is having an angular acceleration alpha, the original dynamic model will be producing an inertial torque what the crankshaft will produce. But that is an imperfect model now, so that will produce a torque which is different from that one. So that torque compensation, that difference should be introduced. So if you do this, there will be a small correction torque to be introduced, but this is the only way. So what people have done is, they have taken this model, an imperfect model of the connecting rod, split it, one is here and another one is here. We knowingly there will be an error. Then what is required is, this should require, suppose this is say M1, this part of it is say M2, rotating masses should include M1. This is reciprocating mass plus that M2. Of course, you know that for a single cylinder engine, for a theoretically perfect one, this is half of it. So your unbalance, whatever it is done, you have to calculate in such a way that includes the reciprocating mass of the piston plus part of the mass which has been taken from the connecting rod, model of the connecting rod. Here rotating mass will have not only the rotating unbalanced mass plus the mass that is coming from this connecting rod. So you have to take all these things, so that now a single cylinder engine, which is not perfectly balanced, but it is much better than what it is before, or it was before attempting to balance. So that is how. But in case of a multi-cylinder engine, you have the comfort that many of the things are balanced. Okay? So that is idea of this thing. So if you look at your crank, the shape of the crank will be like this. So this will be your center of rotation. This particular thing, the crank web, is accounting for this unbalance. It is not done just for the shape or elegance, it is calculated and the particular thing is taken. Okay. So before completing, just if you take all these things like this, what will be the shape of the unbalance, how the unbalance will vary with the crank angle. So that we will have a small look at it and then we will conclude. Okay, we will just go for a projection now. Cylinder engine where the connecting rod unbalances are taken into account. So this is the 0th degree crank angle, this is 90 degree, this is 180, this is 270. So the crank angle keeps on changing. Then what is the total unbalanced force? That means unbalanced force due to the rotating masses, unbalanced force due to the reciprocating mass, unbalanced force due to the connecting rod. All these things are counted. Then it will see that 0 and then slowly it keeps changing. How this diagram is drawn, if you look at it, the diagram is drawn like this. So first the inertial force at a particular angle of theta, crank angle, inertial force to the rotating thing is taken. So that will be occupying the radial direction. Then the reciprocating unbalance will always act along this line, the horizontal direction, because that is your reciprocation direction. So that will be this will be the component of primary and secondary. So this the net is what you see. This is one point. So this is continuously done for every angle. You see that it is not a constant. What is this thing? It is not a constant. Okay. Then after, this is the total unbalance. Okay, so if you try to reproduce this here, total inertial force is something like this. At least approximately it is like this. After adding the counterbalance to balance it, you will see that this comes little bit like this. This is the total unbalance. This is after balancing. So if this maximum values are minimum, you can find out the maximum values somewhere. If that is minimum, you can adjust this counterbalance. When it is minimum, then you can say you have achieved the best possible balance. Okay? So we can close.